Hello, my name is Josh Tyndall, and I've been a ball player for about 11 years. Almost 11 years, it's coming up on that. And I have been pretty silent the entire time. I haven't really I haven't really cared to express my opinion until about now, and I'm not here to I'm going to complain a lot. That's going to happen because I have a lot of complaints currently, but I'm not here to say Blizzard is a bad company or anything. I'm just here to complain about what I don't like about WoW currently, or or what I miss, and how I feel it could be brought back to that. Which means this video is highly opinionated, and I'm perfectly fine with hearing other people's opinions towards the subject. I'm not here to say this is my opinion. It deserves to only be this way. I just want to get it out there. To start off, I would like to talk about just questing. It's an easy thing to start off with, and I feel like certain areas could be improved just slightly. It's not even a huge improvement because some of the questing right now is amazing. I love Tan and Jungle, and I love how streamlined it is in that condensed area, if you can understand what I mean. But I don't like how streamlined it is everywhere else. Like I understand story. It's people want story, but people don't want story that is a straight line. It's an adventure game. Like as much as people want to think it's just an MMO, and every MMO is questing to get to 80, 100, or 80, 90, 100, whatever your level cap is. It's an MMO is an adventure game, and the way you get up to the max level is a lot of the game. It's I would say probably 80% of the game, and the other 20% is end game. But right now, the 80% of going 90 to 100, it's so streamlined. It doesn't feel like an adventure game anymore. It just feels like it's now flipped around to 20% is the questing up, and then the other 80% is me pressing a button. And I know that that just sounds very vague and broad, but that's how I feel about it. Because right now, with my paladin, who I think I'm actually going to switch to while I do this video, because sure, I'm questing on this character, but also I kind of just want my paladin. Um, but questing on my, or doing anything on my paladin, it doesn't feel like nothing I do feels important. Um, when I was questing on my paladin, nothing I did felt that important. Many of the quests I did were forgettable, and I skipped zones. I went from Shadowmoon Valley to Gorgon, and when I got to Gorgon, I realized I was already level 94, and I went back to my base or my garrison, and when I went back to my garrison, I had a quest for Talador. Now, I was like, alright, but I kind of want to do Gorgrond. And then I thought about it. I was like, no, I don't. I can skip Gorgrond, and that's fine. And I should not be saying it's fine to skip a zone. Because, I mean, in my opinion, I feel everything should be fun and interactive. And I know it's hard to do that all the time. Because, right now, I want to design a game, or I want to be part of game design, and it's not easy to just think of constant things that are fun, because there's such a wide demographic you have to service to. On top of it, also people, even though you could you could give to an entire demographic that likes, say, let's say ninjas. But if you don't like, every person's gonna like their different thing. Like for me personally, I I like people who fist fight. But ninjas are all stealth and specialty tools and stuff like that. And sure, I like a game about ninjas, but I don't like the way the ninjas are presented, and that warrants a complaint, or that warrants something just not positive about the game. And it's a very like delicate line. And you can't always be on the good side of the line in an MMO. Um, with good examples being Ashran or the looking for group system. Those, in my opinion, as opposed to many others, are for my opinion, it's on the bad side of the line. I can go to my garrison after I'm done with Ashran, and I have my entire conquest cap, which right now I still need to get like a good 42,000 points, which there's 750 right there, and another 750. But it's on the bad side for me because I come here, I get this entire conquest set. I'm already 3 pieces in after a day. Um, and I go back to my garrison, and if I want a PvP, I sit in my garrison. If I want a PvE, I sit in my garrison. Because the gear now doesn't have resilience. It doesn't have any. The only special part about it is the bottom half, and the equip increases item level to 740 in PvP combat. There's nothing special about that from the raid gear that I could get. I could right now go to these raids. I could probably do Hellfire Citadel right now, at least on Raid Finder, which, as I mentioned, I don't have to leave my garrison for. And I could do it, and I'd be fine. I honestly probably could just stand there and press 2 every so often and just use my judgment, and I'd still make it through Raid Finder because nobody cares. And from that, that's why it's on my bad line, because I did this once already. I got really bored on a shaman in Mr. Pandaria because I wasn't doing much. So I got my PvP gear, and I got a full set of PvP gear, and I just did normal raids. And during those normal raids, I did not do much at all. I moved to the left and to the right when there was mechanics to move to the left and the right. But for the most part, I spammed free lava bursts, for earth shock, and I just hit my 3 button and spam lightning. And that was me getting on the DPS meters. Sure, sometimes I'd be the lowest because I was in a group of people who tried as hard as they could, and sometimes I'd just be average because let's be honest, if I'm average at that point, that means the average of that group is everybody just lazily slapping their buttons, or they don't have a lot of gear, or they are geared and just don't care and they're pressing 1 button. Because I have actually seen players do that now. A couple warriors that my friends play in specific just sit around with mastery stacked and use Mortal Strike and Execute, and that's all they'll use because that's all they need anymore. And I'm not a fan of that, but that's just how the game is now. Got a bit off track about that with questing, but I'll get back to that now that I've gotten past like the saying where the standstill point is what I keep calling it. But questing until the standstill point isn't exactly fun. I mean, there's bits and pieces. Bladespire Citadel, the like siege in Crossfire when you go attack Bladespire, that is fun. It feels like I am going after an important objective for the Horde. I'm fighting Ogron, I'm fighting ogres. It's great. I like the entire quest line there. Tannin Jungle, the first part of Tannin Jungle when you first come in, for what it is, for a very streamlined quest, it is fun because it's streamlined in a small area and it feels important. Now, most zones, if not all zones outside of that, are not fun and honestly forgettable. As I explained earlier, I skipped Gogrond or Gorgrond, and went directly to Talador. And when I went to Talador, I felt terrible. Not because I skipped Gorgrond, but because I skipped Gorgrond and still basically went to nothing. I do Talador quests. I feel no importance. I don't feel like it's my character. It just feels like, oh hey, the story's progressing around me. I'm here. I don't feel like a commander. I feel like an NPC, honestly. The only time it feels like it's my character, and I realize that, is when I'm doing a kill quest, which isn't good, because that means the only time I notice my character, or I feel like my character is important, is when I'm literally just mindlessly beating on animals. Or I'm mindlessly beating on some rare spawn that I saw. And for me, personally, that's just not okay. For other people, it may be okay, but I just personally do not feel. I want to feel more involved, and there's not enough quests in this that make me feel involved. However, earlier examples around, say, Burning Crusade, even a little bit of Cataclysm, in Burning Crusade, I have to say that I felt the most. I felt the most important in Burning Crusade. Because the entirety of Shadow Moon felt important. I would go to Shadow Moon and I would think, or like, okay, my first character ever, I did not expand a lot. I did one quest line for that character, and they were all main quest lines. Some of them felt important, some of them felt kind of bland. But for the most part, it felt good. It felt good to be going through Outlands because there were areas like Shadow Moon, or there were things like Legrand, which was a beautiful change of pace. Instead of it being, which in turn, the changes of pace now are not beautiful because there's areas like Gogrond that you go from Shadow Moon Valley, one of the most aesthetically pleasing areas I have ever seen in World of Warcraft, and then you go to Gogrond, where it is just bleak, and it's not fun bleak. And what I mean by that is, it's not Ice Crown. Ice Crown is fun bleak because you know that you are there because this is like the Lich King's domain. And the entire time you're there, you're sitting there thinking, oh my god, I am surrounded by undead. I am in an area where death is prevalent. Like, that's the theme of the area, it's death. And that's how you feel in that area. You just feel like you don't want to be around stuff. Everything is evil, and it has its own great environment to it. But in Gogrond, it just feels like I was thrown into a zone. Like, I know Rexar's there, that's cool. Rexar's... Well, I like Rexar. But seeing Rexar in an area like that, and then also having the area... Rexar, a great hero, I might add, that, like, everybody at least everybody I know thinks is like amazing or just cool. Um, Somebody who's been picked for Hearthstone over every other hunter in the game. It could have been Nessingwary. Um, but seeing a character like that just dropped in Gorgon, sure he's kind of there, but also like he's basically just there for a quest hub. Watching him not get like the justice he deserves in the area he deserves sucks. Nothing. He doesn't feel important anymore. He just kind of feels like an ogork, as I call him, who's just there. He almost feels like a completely new character because in past game knowledge, he is known as a completely neutral or mostly neutral party who just wants to help when needed. And he doesn't feel like that in Warlords. He just feels like he's there. And that's disappointing for me. On the flip side of questing, there's areas like I said, like Shadow Moon and the Grand, and even Netherstorm, because Netherstorm felt very important. Um there's areas like Shoalsar Basin, and Grizzly Hills, which aren't exactly as important, but they're very, very pleasing to the eye, and it makes you want to be there. My friend was just recently talking about how he skipped Shoalsar Basin until recent expansions, and when he went in there, he was so happy that it was just this lush jungle that he actually did the entire thing without being in the expansion to do the entire zone. He just liked it so much that he wanted to quest there. And I don't really have that in Draenor. I mean, the ground looks cool, and Shadow Moon looks cool, and Taladar is okay, but none of them are literally so mystifying that I would go there just to quest them out. In my personal opinion, I really like, as I keep mentioning, I really like Shadow Moon, and I would go back there because it looks the way I like. I like the kind of, I guess, bleak areas, but that one's not exactly as bleak as others could be. Yeah, sure, demons and fire, and you could fall into a literal pit of nothingness forever, but also the questing there is so beautiful. The entire area is crafted so perfectly. The big bad is in the back where you're never gonna see it until you quest out the area, and then you step over there and you see the Black Temple, something that is in Warlords. Karabor is there. I didn't even go next to Karabor because it was so boring. The only time you go there is like I can't say this for sure because I haven't really done anything around there because it's so easy to forget. But the only time I was ever near Karabor was one quest to save it, and after that quest I didn't even feel like it was important because I knew later that I wasn't going to be next to Karabor anymore. It didn't matter. But when you're in Shadow Moon, you get near Karabor, and you're like, oh, what is that? Why are the demons crawling? What are those? Illidari? What's an Illidari? And you do the entire zone, and you learn what an Illidari is. You learn that Illidan Stormrage is somebody who has been eluding my Ave Shadow song for years and years, and from that, you want to figure out why Illidan did it. So you go like read the books, or you go figure stuff out. And you save a comma. You don't know who a comma was. You just know he looks gross because he's Kurenai, and Kurenai are gross. but then you learn that he's like super important and he's one of the Draenei, or you learn that Kurenai are Draenei, and it's like, whoa, why are you a Draenei? You look weird. And then you learn they look weird because they're corrupted. And so my memory serves because I cannot remember perfectly. But you learn all this stuff in Shadow Moon and it feels important. And then you think you can do Black Temple, but you can't because it's actually an endgame raid and it's not open yet. Or it is an endgame raid and you just aren't geared for it yet. And so you're sitting there getting gear. As a child, I was 10 when this happened. So I didn't know that you had to get gear for that. And I tried walking in there alone and killing stuff, and I died a lot. Because I thought the next time is going to be the one. I'm going to make it through, and then I didn't. And it was amazing still. Because then I learned that raiding was the thing. When I learned raiding was the thing, my mind was just blown. Like, if you looked at me, I was just laying there. I was laying there. My tongue was out of my mouth. My eyes were blank, and my brain was just all over the wall because I was amazed by what raiding was. I got to Karazhan as my first raid ever, and the fact that I only made it in 2 bosses and our group had to quit, I was satisfied with that. I was amazed by those first 2 bosses because the Horseman was fun. The Horseman was unique. You know, like, even today, I look back at the Horseman fight, and I was like, that's still fun. And then, right after that, you would fight, I don't remember his name exactly, but the dude who had, like, a dinner party in Karazhan, the Undead, and he would go invisible, and all his fucking dinner guests would just destroy your group. And it was fun because your group got destroyed. And it felt hard. And it felt nice to just feel challenged. But I don't get that now. I get into Raid Finder and I do nothing. Because I don't have to do anything. I don't feel like Raid Finder is important at all. I don't feel like any of the raids I've been doing are important. The last raid I felt important in and constantly did because I liked it was Dragon Soul. But I only did it up until the fight on Deathwing's back. Because when I got to the last fight, I don't consider that a raid fight. Because I was geared at that point. I was doing 90k DPS on my warrior. And I think like the upper part, because I was doing like 90k without heroic gear, I think the upper people were doing like 120k. But in that fight, I would just beat on Deathwing while my group did the rest. And it was sad. I didn't like it because I didn't feel like I was doing anything. I was sitting here just beating on Deathwing while my group did all the ads, which sounds really lazy, but it's all I had to do. Because everybody could handle the ads, and I could handle Deathwing alone. And then when they finally jumped in, he already had like a quarter of his health gone off of one of his tentacles, and my group was like, "Oh, good job," and that was it. But the rest of the raid it's in my top 5 of my favorite raids. It is a beautiful raid, along with Bastion of Twilight. A lot of people rag on Cataclysm. But I will say the Cataclysm rating was phenomenal. A lot of people rag on Mists of Pandaria, which I actually have to open the journal because I forget about a couple of them. But these raids, Heart of Fear, I loved. Karas of the Spring was okay. Wasn't bad for what it was because it was short. I'm very partial on Mogoshan Vaults because it wasn't too spectacular. But the thing that got me about Mogoshan Vaults is that troll at the beginning that you kill, and his spirit comes out, and he's like, "Oh, I'll seek vengeance on you later." And then the Throne of Thunder comes out, and he's back. He's actually back and makes a difficult raid fight. I love that. That is amazing. And um, Throne of Thunder has to be my favorite out of those. I can, without a doubt, say Throne of Thunder is the best raid in Mists of Pandaria. Um, but from that current rating, I don't feel it's up to par. Um, Current rating for me means raid finder. It doesn't mean I want to take the effort to go into anything more than raid finder. Because when I go into raid finder and I go into high mall, I'm confused in high mall because I I don't see I don't see any trash mobs, or I don't notice them really, and I don't notice the fights I'm doing because they're just done. Um, I think Blade Fist is in there. I'm gonna have to actually use the dungeon journal to tell you what I've done. Yeah, Blade Fist is in there. Um, and his fight is honestly forgettable. I've done his fight maybe 4 times over the course of this entire expansion because I just do not raid anymore. Which, let it be known, raiding was something I would do when I was exhausted from the day. I'd come home from school and want to go to bed, but I knew that a raid was coming up later with my guild. And there are even instances where I'd get so tired I would basically like get to the state of unconsciousness where my body's still doing stuff, but I'm not aware of it, and I would fall asleep during raids and still pull high DPS or at least moderate DPS because I just wanted to raid. There was a time where I was heard like snoring during a raid, but I was still like doing stuff, which sounds pretty ridiculous, but it happened. I have the people to say it happened, and that was my raiding experience until Mists of Pandaria. It was amazing. It was something I would do over anything else. I'd play it over every other game for that experience. And until Throne of Thunder, I didn't have that experience. And then Throne of Thunder came out, and I spammed Throne of Thunder. I did it on Raid Finder. I did it on normal. I did it as much as I could. I would do Raid Finder over and over again just to do Throne of Thunder because I had fun. I played a monk at the time, and doing the fight with the 4 trolls and splitting my spirits across or like 3 of them and pulling massive DPS, that's so fun. And I don't feel like I'll have that fun anymore in the current raid tiers because I get in the raid finder and everybody does everything for me. I've actually, like I said that I had fallen asleep out of exhaustion in raids or past. Now I've actually fallen asleep out of boredom in raids current because I just get bored so easily during them. And I hate it, but it's true. From that, I just have to say, honestly, Blizzard, just look back at raids like Throne of Thunder, Firelands, Dragon Soul, Black Temple, Karazhan. Lead by their example. Those may, I mean, like, okay, I don't speak for everybody. Obviously, this is an opinion topic. I don't speak for everybody, but those raids are amazing. Those are great game design. The entirety of Karazhan is great game design. It feels so different than every other raid because it's so unique. The chess event, the dragon that you have to cover portals for, the menagerie, those are all great fights. In fact, you could probably literally rehash Karazhan with different skins on everything, and I would rate it as much as I rated Karazhan back in the day. Questing wise, follow the examples of what you did in Bladespire Citadel, the entirety of Shadow Moon. The entirety of Shadow Moon. Every quest in there is worth it. It's worth to do. If you haven't done Shadow Moon, go do it. If you haven't done Sholazar, if you haven't done Grizzly Hills, if you... Everybody's done Tannen, what am I saying? If you haven't been to Ice Crown, which you have to have, if you haven't, go now. All of those. Amazing quest hubs. In vanilla, if I had to say anything, I would say, or no, if Cataclysm came into the mix. Twilight Highlands, good quests. I do Twilight Highlands. I blow through Twilight Highlands. I love Twilight Highlands. It's great. Vanilla WoW. Westfall, great starting place. Dunmoreau, not a great starting place. I'm gonna put those in here too. Badlands, not good. I can forget about Badlands. Burning Steppes, and can't remember the other part. Burning Steppes and Searing Gorge, good place. I remember spending many hours in both of these, and I remember being there for a very long time, just constantly fighting stuff and being happy because like the zones were fun, and I knew that they were kind of copies of each other. And this was back when I was 9, but even when I was 9, I thought they were cool. It took me months to get through. All of Azeroth alone, and then when I finally made it to Outland, it took me more months, and that was fine because I liked what I was doing. Netherstorm's another good example. Blades Edge Mountains, some parts, yes. Up here, yes. This area right here, this entire area right here is such a perfect example of how fun questing can be. Nagrand has one of the most iconic areas. The Ring of Blood. Hala, great PvP zone. You guys, perfect on world PvP here. The objectives that you have to get in every area are so fun to PvP around. Terrakar Forest. The Auchendoon. That is such a great spot. This entire area, I could forget it. It looks nice. Geddes, good daily hub. And speaking of daily hubs, just take the Isle of Col de Nas, make it again. Just please, for everybody's sake, just make it again. It's so perfect. It has an endgame raid in it, and you look at that endgame raid, and you think, man, that's there. I know it's an endgame raid. It feels important, even though I'm not raiding in it. And the rest of the area is a daily hub with a dungeon in it. And it feels like I felt like I was going to die everywhere, but that's okay. Because, like, take Dark Souls as an example. You know you're going to die everywhere, but you're okay with it. And that's how I felt in the Isle of Col de Nas. Because I'm running away from Horde players. I run into Naga. They slow me. I get into the water, and I'm even slower, and I'm swimming, and I'm scared. And then I get into the next area, and I'm in the Tainted Scar again. There's demons everywhere. I can't run, and I die. And I go back to the beginning, which is fine, but there's more PvP. I try to avoid the PvP, and I do my dailies, but there's really hard demons. There's mana addicted blood elves, and there's just looming threats everywhere. But it's fun, and the struggle there is worth it. Over here, before, I would say Darkshore, before it was changed, was really fun. Winter Spring is a great change of pace from the rest of this area because there's a lot of deserty areas. Um, honestly, I would actually defend Silithus as an area because I didn't know how bad it was in vanilla until I actually played a vanilla server. I know you're not really supposed to play private servers because it upsets Blizzard, but I never got the experience of vanilla, and I wanted to know what it was like because I just wasn't able to. And I played a shaman, and I was like, "What? Shamans use two-handers?" That was amazing to me. And I used a two-hander, and it was fun. And right now, shamans can't do that anymore. There's kind of a very limited diversity on weapons for people, which they tried to fix. I'll give them points. They tried to give us, they tried to give paladins, I think in, one of these there's a spear that might not have been warlords, it might have been mists. There's a spear in Siege of Orgrimmar, and that's cool. It's cool that I am a paladin with a polearm. I like that. That's great. I mean, it's not going to happen next expansion because we have Ashbringer, which is fine. But I guess this is more just the fantasy nerd in me. But if I saw Ashbringer as a polearm, that'd be really interesting. I don't know how to describe it. I know it breaks lore way too much, but seeing Ashbringer as a polearm or an axe, that'd be awesome. It'd be it would be the essence of what it means to be a paladin. Isn't constricted by that sword. Being the Ashbringer isn't confined by that sword, but just be the Ashbringer is basically I guess an ideal mostly because any blade can be as holy. I mean, it'd obviously still be the Ashbringer just with a different skin, but you know what I mean. I believe there's a thing in there where enhancement shamans, yeah, they're using maces and stuff, but they also use fist weapons. And shamans in general use fist weapons, but not to the extent that enhancement shamans do. But there's a caster fist weapon in one of the raids, and that's cool too. I like seeing stuff like that. And the kind of diversity needs to come back. I can't complain about Legion too much because, I mean, we're getting a new class. That's a huge step in diversity right there. But I actually lost track of what I was saying. But oh yeah, the diversity thing. Wintergrass or Winterspring, very diverse. Silithus. Yeah, that's where I was. I was talking about how shamans use two-handers. All the vanilla stuff. I went through vanilla and I went through a private server of vanilla WoW, and I played a shaman all the way through, and I made it to Silithus, and I ran out of quests. I was like, okay, I guess I just have to grind the rest. But I will defend Silithus, even though you run out of quests, because it's very different than the rest of the continent. Big bugs, big desert, big empty desert. That's interesting. Gogrond, big empty mountainous desert. Not as interesting. Let's see what else. What are other zones that I feel like they could be followed by example? Ungoro Crater. Ungoro Crater is a good zone. I can say I've spent many hours in Ungoro Crater alone. And same with Teneris. Teneris, fun desert. Paralis, I've never been there actually. I'll go check that out eventually. Desolus, I like it after the changes. It's got good gear. I just really feel like all of these zones mentioned could be looked at, revisited, let's add Evashi here and there. They could be looked at and revisited, and you should pull elements from those zones and try to incorporate them in your present game design. And just, I mean, like, I know it's your game. It's always been your game. Nothing's changed it too much. Just look back at what you've done in the past and try to enhance those things. Because in my opinion, those are zones that everybody could play all the time. It doesn't. It's not about. It's not about the streamlining. It's about what's fun. It's not about like how hard can we progress the story, or like how extravagant can we make the story. It's a video game. Make it about fun. And when you make it about fun, the story will follow suit. Because if the game is fun, the story's fun. That can be said for things like Shadow of the Colossus. It doesn't have a big story, but the game's really fun. So the story of the game is fun. That's my opinion on that too. Because I played Shadow of the Colossus and I've watched it be played multiple times. Because it's just fun to watch. It's almost a playable cinematic because it's just so spectacular to watch. The music's so great. Nobody talks at all. Like, barely. There's a outside present voice, but nobody talks. And that's a good game. That's good game design because it doesn't need a very complex story. And I mean, that's kind of what's happening with Warlords. It's very complex for what it doesn't need to be. Just try to make the game more fun. It's not all about how complex it can be. It's just fun. Monks changed up the game. They were fun. I'm really hoping for Demon Hunters to just be the most fun thing I've ever played. You're great company. I like your games. I'll probably play WoW until the final day. And by that I mean I'll probably even play WoW until the day the server shut down. And I know that's a very long shot, but I feel that's pretty true. Classes, try to shape up because paladins. I will say paladins are a great example of what a class should have in numbers of abilities. It's not a lot of cooldowns. Not a lot of, I mean, not a lot of damaging cooldowns. Not something where I will literally hit a button and go from an annoyance to the bane of somebody's existence. It's got a decent amount of damaging abilities. I have my 3 primary holy power generators, and then I have, something to spend it, or a few to spend it. The talents aren't bad. This has choices. These 2 are choices. You actually have like a decent amount of choices as a paladin as compared to my druid, where I have a pretty set path, I would say. Death Knights have some pretty diverse choices. Warriors do not. Please fix warriors. I'm not sure about Demon Hunters. I'm not sure about many other classes because it's been a while. I'm not up to date on them, but I do feel that we need a couple more buttons. Druids they have many forms and a lot of stuff they can do, but the very specific classes alone, like what I spec into, needs to feel more important than the rest of my other specs, but it isn't. Because when I go balance, I can switch into bear form and keep myself alive, and keeping myself alive in bear form feels as important as keeping myself alive in Moonkin form. and I don't feel that's okay because if I can replace my survivability in Moonkin form with Bear form, what's the point of that half of Moonkin form? Um, Obviously travel form makes sense to transform into to get away from people, and that's kind of half of the survivability. But going bear form and then hitting my speed boost and hitting frenzy regeneration and a couple of other buttons to generate rage for more frenzy regeneration, that takes out a lot of it for me. Um, I recently played a hunter, and I have to say that they definitely need a very heavy fine tuning. Um, a lot of this opinion comes from current. I'm not sure how you guys will do it in Legion, but current hunter, I have hunter is around like level 90 and 70, and I really did not feel any difference from 70 to 90. Um, I pretty much just pressed the same buttons. They just did bigger numbers. And I'm a numbers person, but that that's not enough. Because on that one hunter I have power shot and whatever aim shot, that's what it is. And one other ability, and I just spam those three abilities, and that's not okay. I know that survival is getting a huge update and going melee, but that's pretty much all I know about hunters so far. I'm trying not to spoil Legion too much for myself. Um, I just the classes could use a little bit of a touch up. I know that there's new animations and stuff like that. I know very little, so I don't want to get too deep into that. Um, Other than that, that's kind of just my 2 cents on the matter. Um, I do suggest maybe more people get in the WoW again in the next coming months because free patch is coming. It's not that bad of a game right now. It's pretty much all focused on the end game, and that's okay. Like don't be afraid to just come back and play a bit of end game because it's fun. I'm having decent fun in PvP. I can't say the same for PvE, but that's just not my thing right now. Um, Other than that, that's all I gotta say. I hope you can comment below, give your opinion. I know this is a very long video, but I don't care if I have to read through a million YouTube comments. I'd like to hear your guys' opinions on this. Um, but yeah, that's it. That's how I feel about WoW.